Hello, everyone. Welcome to Teach Smart. This is a webinar hosted by Fee, and it's about Didactic Bricks. Didactic Bricks, what it is, it's a tool for teachers that helps you plan your lessons better. But before we get into it, we'll just let you all cozy in, come into the room, and grab a drink, water, and have them close by, and then we'll just get started very soon. In the meantime, just some house rules for everybody. There is no chat in this event. There is a Q&A, and all questions are available for anyone to drop in the Q&A. If you have questions about during the session, we are happy to chat along the way. There is also no unmute button, so you won't be able to speak up, but we are very excited to have you interact with us along the way. My name is Raquel. I'll just go on to the next slide. I am the Communications Project Manager for Didactic Bricks. What Didactic Bricks is a fee-wide event initiative where we're partnering with these organizations up here at the top to build a tool that helps teachers plan their lessons better. This is an EU project, and we are building it together along the way. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what Didactic Bricks and how that could be used for you. So there's some questions, as you know, Foundation for Environmental Education, we do a lot of education-based projects, and then we get a lot of interactions from educators that say the following statements. I need to build a tool, I need to build a lesson plan for this week about pollinators for 2 age groups, and they don't know where to start. Or I wish to introduce more nature topics in my math classes, and it's for tomorrow, so I need to do it right now. Or I want to teach using more engagement elements and tools. So we've heard your requests. We've heard this is a gap that we want to build, and that's what we're building Didactic Bricks. So what Didactic Bricks is, it's a tool, a resource hub, a repository where you have many, many, many lesson plans and lesson activities. And what you can do is filter it by age group, filter it by phases. There are 100+ activities within 3 themes, so textile, fashion, nature and biodiversity, and food and beverage. You can also filter it by subject and filter it by method. So these are all different things that teachers always need in order to find lesson plans for their classrooms. And this tool, as you said earlier, it's made by the European, it's an EU-based project, and it's in fact aligned with the Green Comp, so European Sustainability Competence Framework. So, but before we get further into it and let you know more about the tool, we wanted to highlight a teacher herself that works with lesson plans, and she can spotlight you more about what nature and biodiversity lesson plans are. So I have Lea here with us. She's an eco-schools teacher in Germany, and she will let you know a little bit more about a lesson plan she's built. Over to you, Lea.
Thank you, Raquel. Good to see you, everyone. And I am presenting one specific lesson today, which is about insects and biodiversity. And a fun fact is that I actually just came back from school exactly teaching this specific lesson. So next slide, please, Raquel. We just jump into it straight away. So it is a 9th grade that I'm teaching. I have a few classes, but this specific lesson plan belongs to a 9th grade in Germany, in Bavaria specifically. It's a federal state, Germany, or federal country. So we do have our own curriculums in each state. And in Bavaria, it looks a bit like this for the 9th grade. And the topics in the 9th grade are microorganisms, genetics, genetic recombination, evolution. Then we actually even have the word biodiversity in there because it's biodiversity in invertebrates. And then we have soil ecology. And just by looking at that, we can already see that there are possibilities to have biodiversity in each and every of those topics, because especially with microorganisms, I think we do see that right away. Genetics, everything that is based on biodiversity comes from genetics and genetic recombination. Evolution, of course, as well, because only with evolution we have this huge variety of species. And then we are directly at biodiversity in invertebrates, and that's what we are going to have a look at. And this lesson plan belongs to even a subsection which is called active movement and how the body of an insect looks like. And even with only this little frame within the topic biodiversity, we do have huge amounts to talk about insects. We have huge amounts to talk about biodiversity. Okay, next slide, please. Before we start with making a lesson plan, of course, we need to set our goals. And I wanted my students to know what chitin is and the exoskeleton of an insect, because that's already something that creates a huge biodiversity. Then they do live on land, they live in water and also in the air. So that already, again, creates huge possibilities of having different features to live in all of these places. They should be able to describe biodiversity using specific examples, and they should also be able to connect it with everything that we've done beforehand, which is genetics and also evolution. Because of course, if we do not have mutations, if we do not have recombinations, we also don't have new species that are perfectly adapted to their surrounding. All of these things I can assess with a quiz. That can be an exam, that can be a quiz time at the end of the lesson. However, an effective learning objective that I would also like to have in my lesson is this fascination and appreciation for insects and the biodiversity within insects. And that I cannot really test with an exam, but I maybe need to figure out beforehand, how do they see insects? Do they think it's just something gross that I sometimes see in my bathroom and I'm a bit frightened? Or is it something that actually does already fascinate me? And for that, I like to use, for example, Mentimeter, Slido, whatever. There are tons of tools where you can assess how your students feel like about a certain topic. And if you do the same at the end of the section, you will see whether something has changed. Otherwise, we cannot really assess effective learning objectives, but without those tools, I think it's rather nice to have them and to use them. Okay, next slide. Okay, so very important at the beginning of every lesson is to hook them. What I did is we have stick insects at our school actually, so I could bring one to already kind of have a living creature in the classroom and show how crazy it is that we cannot even see it because it has this adaptation to nature that is just really perfect. And then we already built on knowledge, prior knowledge they have, which is how could it happen that we have a species that is so adapted to its surrounding, because mutation, a lot of years, evolution, and voila, we have an insect, a stick insect that really is almost not able to see when you have other sticks laying around it. So with that, I already kind of connect them to fascination and emotions, because I hope that at least they are caught and hooked by seeing that insect and how it really is adapted to its surrounding, and all of that they already know from evolution. Okay, next slide. Yeah, and with that, we straight go into a development phase where I gave my students a variety of material. And that was kind of a group work self-study phase, because they do already have quite a lot of knowledge in the 9th grade about insects, because it's already topic in the 6th grade. So all of these very surface level knowledge is there, and now we kind of dive deeper into it and look at it from an angle of adaptation and also biodiversity and evolution, because that's the knowledge that we want to build in the 9th grade. And I had different types of biodiversity aspects, because if we only look at the legs of an insect, we already have a huge variety, because some are used to catch something, some are used to survive in the water. So just by looking at the leg, we see biodiversity. Looking at the exoskeleton, again, we see huge differences in how the body is shaped. If we look at, for example, the camouflage, again, with the stick insect, it also shows how greatly they are adapted and what the biodiversity behind those facts are. To kind of help some of the students with, for example, dyslexia, I'm not only using those texts, but I also have in an online platform videos where kids who do have maybe issues with reading and writing or do need more time, they can also use a video for that. And it actually worked perfectly fine. So they had their little group, they did a deep dive into one feature, and then they had to pitch it. So next slide, please. That would be, yeah, thank you. That would be the consolidation phase. And with the pitch, it kind of is an oral consolidation, not a written one, but an oral one. And they were quite proud of each feature that they could present and to describe how such a little feature as just a leg can be so diverse, or how wings that can be either super fast and have a crazy frequency, and some which still are rather slow, but perfectly fine for the environment they live in, and were not naturally selected because they are slower than other wings. So that was really nice to see how engaged and proud they did these little pitches about one feature and how it already has biodiversity within one feature. To also have it written down, I gave them a piece of paper or worksheet which collected all of the information that they gathered in their groups. But to have a takeaway sentence as a class, as a unity, we also did that ourselves and tried to figure one sentence out to put all of what we found out in our little groups into one sentence and have it as a take-home message. Next slide. And especially in Germany, we are always very driven with assessing our students. I'm not a huge fan of that, but of course, cognitive knowledge, very easy to assess by having an exam. How much they actually understood it is often questionable because we just mark it and we give them a grade, but which is why I like to have these little quiz time at the end of my lessons to see whether they actually understood the concept. Socio-emotional knowledge, as said, I think that is quite good to assess with any sort of tool which we can use before and after the lesson to see how did they feel. Did they maybe only associated insects with a feeling of disgust and maybe even were frightened by them, and then afterwards they actually kind of have a positive emotion towards them and are fascinated by all of the different shapes and features they have. Behavioral knowledge, quite difficult to assess if you only have like one lesson of, let's say, 45, 90 minutes. So I would definitely lie if I say my students went home today and now only use the bicycle because everyone is so fascinated by insects and do not want to pollute anymore. What I think I'm planning to do is within this aspect of biodiversity in invertebrates, there's also one section about the interaction of humans and insects. And I think there I would try to create a challenge for them as a class. So for example, I bought organic honey. I took the bicycle, but also I am trying to buy vegetables and fruits without pesticides. And then as a classroom, we can see, okay, we had this challenge and we could tick all of the boxes and contributed something to secure biodiversity within invertebrates and insects. But yeah, I would lie if I say I had a huge behavioral change knowledge gain in those 45 minutes. Yeah, I think that's it from my side. Thanks for listening, and I am handing over to the next speaker.
Thank you so much, Lea. Thank you so much for providing this wonderful lesson plan about nature and biodiversity and specifically about insects, which is a topic some of us and some teachers shy away from. We have a question for you in the Q&A. There is a person asking regarding the lesson plan on insects that you explain what behaviors are expected, and if that, what type of assessment would you do, and or will you do, or planning to do with your with your students soon when your lesson's done?
Yeah. Only for behavioral change, I think yeah, it's difficult to assess. I would say I would maybe also use Mentimeter, for example. Try to see how many already take into account when I go to the supermarket, I only buy organic vegetables because, for example, that does have a huge impact on insects because most of the pesticides used do damage insect biodiversity. And then after the whole, not only one lesson, but the whole section of biodiversity in invertebrates, I would do the same again and maybe see if there's only like this idea, okay, now I do look at the supermarkets I go to, the produces I buy, or maybe how often did you go to the local market back then, and how often are you planning to now go to the local market? And then I think we do see hopefully a difference. But yeah, as said, I think within 45 minutes, it's often a bit difficult. And classroom challenges I also really like because it doesn't really, it's not only having one person doing a challenge, and then often it's also a bit connected to the economic background. But we can contribute as a class and then achieve something as a class, and it's not about whether people can afford to go to an organic supermarket, but we have a goal as a class and we can contribute it together. I hope that
Perfect.
was the question.
That's a really great answer. All right. We'll move on to the next. Thank you so much, Lea, for your words, and we'll move on to the next part of the session. We have with us here Lea Davis, and she will tell us a little bit more about didactic bricks in practice through an interactive quiz. So over to you, Lea.
Hi, thank you, Raquel, and thank you, Lea. And Lea, thank you as well. I've just remembered we used to have stick insects in our classroom as well. So it seems to be a standard classroom pet that we have. Thank you for that memory that just came back. So hello, everybody. My name is Lea Davis. I'm one of the directors for education at FEE. But prior to this, many, many years ago, I started teaching in 1999 as a geography and an environmental science teacher and spent many years doing the same as Lea, delivering lessons before coming to work in this session. So today, for my quiz, I'm here speaking to you as teaching colleagues. I want to hear your thoughts, your opinions. This is, as I would have said to my students, not a test. This is just to gather our ideas and to share our best practice. And again, something I perhaps wouldn't have said as a teacher is, please can you get your mobile phones out because we're about to do a Menti quiz, or Slido quiz. We've had Menti, we've got Slido now. So if you can either scan the QR code, please, or if you go to slido.com and type in #2970549. So we'll just give you a few minutes to do that. If you are really, really struggling to access any of those, we don't want any of you to miss out on answering questions. There is the possibility to perhaps put your answers later on in the Q&A box, just in case you're desperate to share answers with and you can't get online. So we'll give you a few more minutes. And like we said, before we move on, this is not a quiz where we have right and wrong answers. This is purely just to see kind of what the experience is that you have within your classroom in the real world. Shall we go with the first one, Cal? Do you think you need to be, or do you feel like you need to be a biodiversity and nature expert to deliver a meaningful lesson about it? So you could be a trained music teacher. You could be working in vocational. It could be working in mechanics. Like, do you feel like you had to? Excellent. Okay, I think we're having a look here. Brilliant. Again, actually, there's no wrong answer with this because this is how you personally feel. Truthfully, I do very strongly believe it doesn't matter. Part of one of my roles in the UK was I worked with the UK government on embedding climate action into the national curriculum. We did say that there didn't need to be a specific curriculum. There are elements actually that you can add into any of your teaching. You don't have to be an expert. I think those of you that have turned up today, I think we can class you all as experts. This sheer kind of enthusiasm to want to take part and to want to learn. But I don't think it matters. And actually, for some of you, for those that are saying the 21%, hopefully we can change your mind. You can learn to become an expert, and you can make some nice, easy steps, as Lea said here, even if it's just starting off with a few pets or a few simple discussions in the classroom. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, next one, please. Right, we're going to have this one as an open cloud bubble answer because, well, we didn't want to constrain you to subject areas. We didn't know where you might be coming in from, what subjects you teach, what ages you teach. So what I'd just like to ask and give you a little bit longer to just type up maybe a subject, a topic, a lesson, where you actually already are covering nature and biodiversity, silverfish in textbooks. World around us. I have school garden I take my students to. Can you perhaps give me, if any of you are doing particular subject areas, that maybe if there's anybody on here that's not a STEM or a science or technology and so on, you have a school garden, a subject in subject nature and science, yes. Geography, as a former geography teacher, yes, it tends to fall on us. Language teaching, brilliant. I love that. Somebody said that. I used to be work with the Modern Foreign Languages department, and they actually learn environmental terminology within the modern languages. That's wonderful. What else? We've got social studies, nature-based education. Wow, this is fabulous. Creative writing, yes. How many people have been inspired by nature? I think we should definitely use creative writing, creative arts, music. Everyday walking, yeah, just walking to and from school, art, biology, brilliant. Shelter from the climate, maths. I think maths is massively overlooked. There are so many things that you can study. We have got some hexagons behind us here talking about perfect shapes in nature and with bees and biomimicry. There's loads of great things that you can do with maths as well. Taxonomy. What else have we got? Science lab work. Brilliant. Thank you. There's some really nice mixtures of subject areas here. And this is what we want to keep telling people, especially those who might not think they're experts. You don't have to be an expert, even if this isn't your area. Thank you, Raquel. So then the next thing that we're going to do is there's this graph here that we have created. Now, one of the programs that we run at FEE is called Learning About Ecosystems and Forests. And it's a program that helps not just formal educators, but anybody learn to connect to nature and feel confident to raise awareness of nature. But what we've been talking about recently is that there are different ways. There's learning about nature in nature, and there's also learning about nature in the classroom. So we created this graph here where you might be a subject teacher that is teaching a traditional lesson, but actually you're in the classroom. You're not going outside, which I'd say probably 90% of us, 90% of the time do that when we teach. Then if you stay indoors, you can still actually be an outdoor educator. Some of you are just telling me there on your examples. You probably have examples of things that you have taught that were theory about outdoors, but you actually did it inside. Then, if you go up to the top level, you have people might go outside and you might deliver a lesson outside, but is your lesson that you're delivering outside really about nature, or have you just taken your students outside because it might be a nice day, you want some fresh air, some benefits? The content of the lesson wasn't about outside. And then the final example on the top corner is you actually deliver lessons outside about outdoor education. So I'll just give you couple more seconds to have a look. Where do you think you would place yourself currently? Are you doing just traditional lessons inside? There is nothing wrong with that. That is kind of where most teaching will be. Are you teaching about outdoors, but you're still kind of sat indoors doing it? Are you teaching outdoor, but it's not necessarily about outdoor education? Or are you teaching outdoors and in? Let's have a look here. So the most common one, about 50% of you, indoor lessons on the outdoor. Excellent. That is, you are not alone. That is the most common approach. We'll have a look at a question in a moment to have a look about why you're doing that theory but not taking it outdoors. So that's excellent. Traditional lessons inside, that is great. We can see here that actually closely followed by outdoor with real world application is great. And we would expect that with you guys on this call in the nature of coming. Okay, so let's have a look. How can we move you up? And so if we go to the next question then, again, we didn't want to constrain this by giving you examples. Can you please perhaps mention some of the things that either stop you teaching about outdoor nature altogether, or stop you taking those outdoor nature lessons actually outdoors? And I can say for me as a teacher, my biggest problem was paperwork, risk assessments, and logistics. And Lea was talking about insects before. We had literally some students who were scared of spiders. So they were scared of insects, so they weren't going to go outside. So please do put in your barriers. We didn't assume and put options in because everybody is different. Heat, yes, or the opposite, too cold. Weather is a huge one, isn't it? Time, the sheer time to get the students outside and then to come back in will eat into your teaching time if you only have a 45-minute, 90-minute lesson. Exam orientated culture, very much you only have to teach what's on the curriculum because there's an assessment. You've got time to sway from that. You're stuck in your ways. Yeah, you might want to change, but it's that repetitive nature of doing it. Wonderful. Students aren't interested. School time, building urban settings. Yeah. How can you do it in an urban area? We have some great resources on our in our leaf where you can even just look at moss and micro habitats on a garden, on a school wall as well. You can still have a look at lack of confidence. Yeah, that I think that's actually a really big one. And thank you to whoever put that in, because to be brave enough to say, I don't feel confident to do it, I think is a really, really big thing for anybody doing this in this sector. We hopefully will give you some inspiration with Didactic Bricks to kind of change that around. Disabilities, yeah, again, many of us, I myself had a school garden and we had to leave elements of the school garden behind because it wasn't wheelchair accessible. So again, all these different school skirts. Yes, possibly. Parents, yes, that can be a huge one. So thank you. Now we're going to move on. Raquel's going to tell you, hopefully, some ways to overcome these with what we have with Didactic Bricks. Don't close the quiz, because we will have one last question for you at the end. So Raquel, I'll pass over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lee, for guiding that interactive quiz. It was so exciting seeing everyone's opinions and thoughts about what it's like to teach, and specifically to teach nature and biodiversity as a lesson. So what we have to introduce to you is a tool that we're building. So Didactic Bricks, as I said earlier, is a repository and a living hub of lesson plans. And one of the themes of Didactic Bricks itself is nature and biodiversity. So we're building a hub of all these types of libraries of lesson plans that you could use to teach biodiversity and to teach nature, to overcome some of the barriers that you said earlier. So we don't have it yet, but here we have a little sneak peek of what the tool itself is looking like. As you can see here, it's divided by activities, it's divided by playlist, and it's divided by methods. So what it's like, it's a complete big living hub of different types of lesson plans that you can filter by age group, you can filter by a type of lesson subject that you want to teach, you can filter it also by face. And by face, we mean is what type of style are you trying to engage your students with? So is it through acting, so having them do something at the end and take action? Is it about investigating and researching and putting their heads down and researching away? Or is it by different types of age groups? So obviously the younger children might and students might learn a different way than others. And then what you can do is go into the lesson plans and into the activities and get to know more about the activities, the steps that you need to do as a teacher to prepare beforehand before you teach it, the materials that you might need in order to teach the activity, as you can see here, the methods, and any other additional sources. So no need to go further. You can just do it all in one place. And what you can do is, for example, you want to teach a whole series of lessons about pollinators or bees, and as an examples, you can build it into a playlist. So just like we have music playlists in the world, there's also lesson plan playlists. And this is a sample playlist I can present to you here. Imagine your school curriculum asks you to teach a whole lot of lessons about bees and how to engage with your school garden or how to engage with pollinators and create more of awareness regarding this. You can do it into four different phases. So the first phase would be to get to know more about the students knowing what the bees are and what they need to do and what are the behind the scenes. So this would be more of a research phase, and there's a lesson plan for you there. Then it's more about acting and investigating with their bodies and their words. So this is a bit of a more detailed session. Then we get them to go out into nature, and then you do another nature-inspired activity. This is based on one of our recent Global Action Days campaigns, so you can pick from there. And then the last one is using their hands on how to make a bee hotel. So this would be having a whole series of different activities they can do from scratch. As you can see here, it's still a tool in process. You're getting a little sneak peek, but it will be coming very soon to your devices, so you can pick and choose and make this yourself. But before we finish off our webinar and before we move on, we'll have one last question that I'll pass over to Lea.
Thank you, Raquel. And I think it is worth, again, just noting here when Raquel's been doing this project for Didactic Bricks, many of us know there are many, many, many lesson plans out there on these topics. There's a wealth to choose from. You are all qualified, fully trained, experienced teachers. You don't always need a lesson plan. Sometimes you just need a lesson starter, an activity, even just a spark of inspiration. That's what the Didactic Bricks is. You can choose to put them all together in one block, or you can choose to just dip in. I need something for the end of this particular session, and it's a 5-minute activity. So this is the great thing about this. We're not just saying and assuming you need this full lesson plan. You can go in and pick what you like. Now, with that in mind and using that as some inspiration, we'd like to ask you just one last question, please, because again, you're all educators. We don't want you leaving the classroom without actually committing and making sure we've got our aims and objectives for today's session. So can I ask you all now, just thinking for perhaps one small way, notice how this is phrased, that you could bring nature into your indoor teaching. We're not going to ask you all to suddenly go outside and start teaching outdoors. We'd love to have that. But how might you embed outdoor education, nature into your indoor teaching? Because you might not be able to get outside. You might not be able to have. That's the easier, quicker win. So we'd like to just ask you to have a little think. Could it be you have some stick insects in your classroom? Could it be you occasionally do some time to have some mindfulness and looking out of the classroom windows? Excellent. Terrariums. There's so many amazing things you can do with terrariums and teaching them as just one enclosed ecosystem. Really, really interesting. Bring some materials in. Could have a nature corner. You could have a garden in a jar. Each of the students could make that and have a look at them. Or live bird feeds. Yes, you can get them on the window as well, where you can actually look in as they're coming in. A green corridor. No, very good. Yeah, between the transitions through. Looking out of the window. Plants in the classroom. Yes, we have plants in our classroom, and you must make sure to give your plants names as well, because that will help the students want to look after them. Butterflies, leaves, flowers, raised beds. Yeah, you can plant lots of things on the windowsill. Now, if you look at what you've just put in here, all of these you can do, and actually you can do for minimal costs and get the students involved in. But if you are feeling brave enough, there's plenty of these things that you could actually do outside as well, like a vertical garden. You could easily have inside, but you could also do a vertical garden. You can do moss painting, where you mix moss with yogurt and then you can paint murals on the wall and so on. So you can see here, there's things you can do, but hopefully you could see how with some time and some thinking, you could also take them outside. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for your answers. We're going to collate those. Raquel and the rest of the team will take these on board with our Didactic Bricks. We'll look at the things you've suggested to us, and also our Learning About Ecosystems and Forests programme. And we do encourage you, and one of the team will give you some more information about that later on. But keep them coming in. I'm getting inspiration here and remembering some lessons. So thank you very much. It was great to talk to you today about a wonderful topic to teach and a wonderful topic to be outside of the classroom teaching. Raquel, back over to you.
Thank you so much, Lee. So we couldn't end without giving you some announcements regarding what's coming next. So as you've heard, the Didactic Bricks is a living tool, so we're still building in the progress, but you might have a question like, when is it coming? To keep an eye out, we have an EcoSchools landing page where we talk about Didactic Bricks, so any updates regarding that will be sitting there, and you will be able to find the link in the chat very soon. But we also have some other projects to keep you waiting. I know a lot of you are very interested in nature and biodiversity and how to teach it, et cetera, et cetera. So how best to not teach it than to have all these other projects going on. In FE, as you know, we have different programs. One of our programs is learning about ecosystems and forest, and we have a partnership with you and Decade for Ecosystem Restoration, which Maria, that is here, will tell you a little bit more about. Over to you, Maria.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and I really hope that this gives you inspiration. If you want more inspiration and if you want to know more about nature, outdoor connection, how can you show this to the schools, to the students, maybe engage the families? This is the program that I take care of. It's called Learning About Ecosystems and Forests. And one of the work that we are currently doing as a FEE entire network, but also with LEAF, is our UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration. This is a very important topic, is a global goal that we improve our communities, our ecosystems, and part of this work is our generation restoration schools. Throughout this whole year, we will be sharing FEE academic courses that your as teacher can take part and can learn and can gather inspiration on how to teach ecosystem restoration from recognized UNEP flagship. So from nature areas where restoration is happening and how to show that to your students and to connect and to create this really sense of belonging, of action. And really, we would love to have you join us. Please, in the chat, there is the page for the Generation Restoration Schools. Please join us. We already have around 100 schools that are part of this movement. Very soon, coming more resources, coming more ideas, also coming guides on how to have the students become reporters for environment. So we would love to see you there. And this page also is guiding you to LEAF. So please take a look around, contact us if you want any more information. And it was very nice. Thank you so much. Thank you, Raquel.
Thank you, Maria. That's wonderful. We have another announcement for you. This is FEE Education Awards, which is something that Lee will tell you more about.
Hello again. Yes, we also we love to recognise the educators in our network. We have some people who have been EcoSchools coordinators or teachers, some for over 25 years. But that doesn't matter. We also have some new people who have been with us for only maybe 1 year of teaching, and they have created some amazing interactive lesson plans. So we would like to invite you all to join us for our FEE Education Award ceremony that's taking place on the 4th of June from 1:30 till 2:30 European summertime. This will be a celebration of some of our amazing teachers from the network. It is very much shining a spotlight on them. It is about them sharing some of their ideas for best practice and worst practice, some of the things that haven't worked. I guarantee it will be an amazingly inspiring and uplifting session. There is nothing better to hear from these teachers who have been doing it, and they know and have tried and tested many of these lesson plans. So we invite you all to join us, come and celebrate your fellow colleagues and get some new ideas and some more inspiration. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lee. And then we have one last announcement, which I will talk to you more about. We have in FEE a new series called Waters Explorers. So this is our efforts to talk more about water and water conservation. And we're having these Water Explorers talks with conservation experts, water influencers, and many different ocean photographers that we're talking about. We just had a session in April, but you can find in our recordings, but we have our next session coming up soon. And this is a lesson with this wonderful ocean photographer called Alexander. It will happen on the 27th of May. The chat will have the Zoom link soon. We would love to see you there and get to know more about our deep ocean water and how we can get to know it better and be more aware. And that's kind of it for today. It was wonderful to have you all here and join more and get to know more about both nature and biodiversity, how to teach it, how to engage with it. Just to end it on a high note, we know that there's many of you that are already working on nature and biodiversity. So what we want to do is just make it even easier to teach, to make sure that environmental education is well taught and shared across the world so the next generation can keep on teaching it too. So thank you so much. We're going to end a bit early today, giving you a bit more time because we know you're busy teachers. Have a wonderful rest of your Thursday and see you all very soon. Thank you.